Hey, welcome back to Not So Complicated, and today we'll be talking about facial nerve in our episode 7 of Cranial Nerve series, obviously in Neuroanatomy session, right? So let's talk about that and without further delay. So basically, we'll be talking about root or origin first. So it starts in the pons barreli, where upper motor neurons from the motor cortex snaps with lower motor neurons in the facial nucleus, right? So there are two major parts of the origin of this facial nerve. One of that is large medial motor root. The origin of that is obviously facial nucleus, lower motor neurons, and the input is upper motor neurons, right? And this root exits the cranial space via cerebellopontine angle, that is between olive and peduncle nucleus, and then the other part is small lateral sensory nucleus or root, and it is also called nervus intermedius, right? So the origin is superior salivatory nucleus and solitary nucleus. The function is obviously parasympathetic and test function. We'll be talking about that in detail later. So talking about the course of facial nerve, after passing through cerebellopontine angle, it crosses over in, like, it passes through internal acoustic meatus along with cranial nerve 8, right? And then it enters the facial canal, which is divided into three segments that are obviously labyrinthine, tympanic, and mastoid. We'll be talking about that, and these three segments have their one pathways, right? One course. So in labyrinthine, what is that is it lies above the vestibule of internal air, and then it passes laterally to reach the medial wall of middle ear, and then it bends. So anything that is bending in nerves will form genu, right? So the external genu literally means the bending, right? So it locates in it locates in geniculate ganglion sharply backwards, obviously, and the other one here is tympanic part, and the tympanic part runs horizontally backward along with the medial wall of the middle ear, and it reaches the junction of medial and posterior wall of middle ear, right? So the other part, the last segment of this facial nerve, that is the mastoid segment, it passes vertically downward in this part along the posterior wall of middle ear to reach the stylomastoid foramen, right? So this is the actual course of the nerve. You can see here that is obviously that we have described before in different colors, right? So the branches of facial nerve, talking about that, there are three different regions where facial nerves get branched, right? So the first one is in the facial canal and below the stylomastoid foramen, and then on face given with parotid gland, right? So each of them had different branches. So in the facial canal, the branches are greater petrosal nerve from geniculate ganglion, nerve to stapedius, and chorda tympani nerve, right? So these nerves have different functions. So we'll be talking about that in the functional components of the facial nerve. And in the below the stylomastoid foramen, these nerves branched into posterior auricular nerve and nerve to posterior belly of digastric and stylohyoid muscles, right? So on the face, there are temporal nerve, zygomatic nerve, buccal nerves, marginal mandibular, and cervical nerves. So these are the branches of the facial nerve in different regions, and this is the actual image. The first image, final image that you make in the exams is this image, this figure. You have to make that, right? So you can draw it right now. So now talking about the functions, there are different functional components of the facial nerve. One of them is spatial visceral efferent, and the nuclei is obviously motor nucleus of facial nerve, and the structures innervated is the they control all the muscles derived from the second branchial arc, that is occipitofrontalis muscles of face, platysma, stapedius, posterior belly of digastric, and stylohyoid muscles. And the other one is general visceral efferent, that is the nucleus are superior salivatory nucleus and lacrimotor nucleus. And superior salivatory nucleus, they send secretomotor fibers to submandibular and sublingual gland, and lacrimotory nucleus that secrete, they send secretomotor fibers to lacrimal gland, right? So in the spatial visceral afferent, the nucleus of tractus solitarius is the nuclei, and then it carry taste sensation from anterior two-third of tongue except from circumvallate papillae. And general visceral afferent is the another functional component, and the nuclei is spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, and few cutaneous fibers from the external ear are the structures that are innervated, right? So this is all about the functions. Talking about the lesions, so there are two kind of lesions. One is supranuclear lesion and the infranuclear lesion, right? So supranuclear region, the muscles of the lower part of face of opposite side are paralyzed, but muscles of upper part of face are spared. And why is that? This is your homework commented down, right? And also infranuclear regions. These lesions are like dependent on the site of the lesion. So you can see here there are four different sites: A site, B site, C site, and D site, right? So these are infranuclear lesions. So talking about that, you can see right here, if there is lesion in D segment that causes Bell's palsy, and we all know what Bell's palsy is. It is paralysis of all the muscles of facial expression on the same side, right? So there is like drooling and a lot of functions like that are impaired in the Bell's palsy, right? So if the lesion is at the C region, so lesion I, that is lesion at D region, plus decreased salivation and loss of taste sensation from anterior two-third of the tongue is the manifestation in lesion at C. And lesion at B lesion is all the symptoms in lesion I and lesion II that we have talked in like D and C region, and hyperacusis is the lesion at B. And in lesion at A, all the symptoms above, like 3 symptoms plus loss of lacrimation, is present in the case of lesion at A. So that is how you remember the lesions of facial nerve. So that is all about facial nerve. Subscribe for more clinical polls and comment down if you have any other questions, and thank you for staying with me.